everybody, and welcome to this week's Bible lesson for families to do at home and learn and grow together. I'm glad you're here. It is week 2 of our story about the farmer who was planting his seeds, found in Matthew 13. So today, before we start, I want you guys to have your snack. So get something yummy, get some water or some juice. And while you're eating that, I want you guys to just talk about something this week. And it will somehow match up with our story. So today's question for you to talk about, to ponder and discuss during your snack time is to think of the last time that you did not understand something. Whether you were being taught something or you were told to do something at work or a friend was telling you a story and you were like, I do not get what you're talking about. So tell your family about the last time that you can remember where you did not understand something. All right? And have your snack and enjoy your family, and then come back and we will start on our Bible story for this week. Okay, welcome back. I hope you had a really good talk with your family. And what I want to do now is just review the story that we heard last week. It's a parable. A parable is a story that Jesus told to teach us a lesson. It's a story that he made up. So he made up this story so that we could hear the story and somehow know what he was trying to teach us. Okay, so here's the story. It's Matthew 13, chapter 13, verses 1 through, I think, 9. It goes like this. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he had to get into a boat and put it out a little bit and sit in it and preach and teach, while all the people stood along the shore and learned and listened. Then he told them things in parables, saying, here's the parable. A farmer went out to plant his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some of it fell along the path. Well, the birds came up and ate it. Some of the seed fell on rocky places, where it did not have very much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered and died. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up among the seed, and the weeds choked out the good seeds. Still other soil or seed fell in the good soil where he meant it to, and it produced a crop of 100, 60, or 30 times what they started with that one seed. He who has ears, let him hear. So that's our story from last week. And at the end of last week's lesson, I challenged you to decide what you thought in that story Jesus was using to teach us something. Is he using the farmer? Are we supposed to learn from what the farmer did? Is he using the seed? Are we supposed to do what the seed did? Or is he using the dirt? Are we supposed to do what the dirt did? And I asked you to tell your family which one you thought was the right one to use to base our lesson on. So real quick, I'm going to take a pause. I want you guys to remind each other which one you thought was the one that Jesus was going to teach you a lesson through. And I want to talk for a minute about that very last sentence, okay? And that's going to get us to what we need to understand from this story. But the very last sentence in Jesus' parable said, he who has ears, let him hear. Well, I have ears. Do you have ears? So people just don't talk in the Bible like they do now. We don't say, if you have ears, let you hear. But I think what that Jesus is trying to say in this, at the end of that story, is, hey, if you have ears, listen to this story and learn from it. Does that make sense? So then it goes on to verse 10, and this isn't Jesus' words. This is the disciples talking. The disciples later came to him, and they asked him, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" Parables, remember, are stories that Jesus used to teach us lessons. And I'm, you know what I think? I think that the disciples said, "Why do you talk to the people in parables?" Because the disciples were afraid to say, "We have ears and we heard, but we don't understand. Jesus, we don't know what that story meant. We don't get it. I have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking about a farmer and his seed and the birds eating it and some of it growing big plants, and we just don't get it." Do you think that his disciples felt that way? That they didn't understand the story? But they were afraid to say, "Jesus, we don't understand." Because Jesus just said, "Those who have ears, let them hear." So they probably were like, I should really know this. I spend a lot of time with you, Jesus, but I don't get it. I don't understand what you're trying to say. So I was thinking about those disciples who were kind of embarrassed in front of Jesus because they didn't understand his parable. And I thought of the last time that I was with a group of friends and somebody told a joke and everybody burst out laughing, and I didn't, because I didn't get the joke. I was like, I don't even see why that's funny. I don't get the joke. And everybody else got the joke. And that's how I kind of felt like the disciples might have felt when Jesus told this great story and said, "Everybody that has ears, let them hear." And the crowds of people probably were like, "Yeah." And the disciples were like, "I don't get it." So in kind of to celebrate our disciples who didn't get it in this story, I would like for you to pause and tell your family your favorite joke and see if they get it. Okay, we have finished our little joke break where we got to share our favorite jokes, and we're back in the story. So we're at the part where Jesus' disciples said, we don't get it. They didn't say it in those exact words because I think they were a little embarrassed, but they said, "Why do you teach like this?" All right, and this is what Jesus said back to them. He said, "Blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear." So he's saying now to his friends who kind of are asking, kind of trying to say they don't understand it. Jesus says to them, "You're so blessed because your eyes see and your ears hear." And they're probably thinking, "We don't really. We need your help." So then he says, "For I tell you the truth, there are prophets and teachers and leaders who long to see what you see, but they don't even see it. And they want to hear what you hear, but when they hear it, they don't understand it." That kind of sounds like the disciples right now, doesn't it? They saw him tell the story, they heard the story, and they don't understand it. So now they're probably like, "Oh my gosh, like we didn't understand it, and now Jesus is saying, you're so great because you can see it and you can hear it and you understand it, and we don't really." And we're sitting there a little guilty going, "I really want to understand it, and I really don't, but I don't get it." Maybe that's happened to you in school or at work, and you're embarrassed in front of your teacher or your friends or your boss to say, "I want to get it, but I really don't get it. I want to do what you're asking me to do, but I'm not sure what that is." And so this is what Jesus does next. He says, "Listen to what the parable of the sower means." And then he explains it to them. He explained it to them. So he knew that they didn't understand, but he also knew that they wanted to understand. And that was important to him. And when he kind of gave them a pep talk like, "I'm so glad you can see and hear. There's so many who don't get to hear. these stories, and you do. You're so blessed. And they were like, we are so lucky. We get to hear the stories. We get to see you, Jesus. But we don't understand it still. So what did Jesus do? He called them closer and he said, let me explain it to you. Let me tell you what it means. Let me help you understand. Because I want you to understand. I care about you and I want you to understand. Isn't that awesome? How do you think that the disciples felt when Jesus didn't give them the, oh, I can't believe you don't get this. Instead, he gave them the, come here, let me help you with it. Let me help you. I'll explain it to you. I bet they felt pretty special. Maybe. I bet they did. So I'm going to take a pause break now, and I'm going to let you guys talk again about maybe a time you didn't understand something, which you named it earlier, but you might want to choose something different now. But I want you to think about when you didn't understand something, like at school, if you didn't understand your math problem or how to do it, or you didn't understand how to figure out how to write the setting of a story you were supposed to be writing, or whatever it was, or something at work that you were supposed to be doing and you didn't really understand it, and your teacher called you up and sat down at the table with you and really explained it to you and helped you understand it. And you could tell that that teacher or that boss or that friend really wanted to help you, and they really wanted to help you understand that thing that you didn't understand. They weren't angry at you because you didn't get it. They wanted to help you understand it. All right? Because that's kind of what Jesus did. There's a P for his disciples. But we have people in our lives that treat us that way, and I just kind of wanted to compare how it feels so that we can understand how those disciples feel. All right? So take your pause now and talk about that, and come on back. So I'm going to do it to you again this week. We're still not going to explain the story. We have 2 more weeks to explain that story. So you have another week before next Sunday or next whatever day your family's doing your Bible study at home, and to continue to think about the lessons in this story. The lessons in this story. Today, what our main goal was to understand that the disciples who were with Jesus all the time still didn't understand everything he told and taught. He had to sit them down and he had to explain it to them with love and with caring. And he'll do the same for us. Yeah, which is really cool. But for right now, we need to go and look at the seeds that we sowed or planted last week and see if any of them are still there or if they've started growing in any way. All right, so we're gonna go grab the camera and go on an adventure. All right, so first here is the path. If you'll remember, the first seeds in the story landed on the path and the birds came and ate them up. So I threw some on this path that goes through this narrow part of my yard, and I see that there's one seed and the birds did not come and get it. So we'll leave it there and see if they want to come and get it next week. But this is hugely a big surprise. Look at that seed. Do you see what's happening? Am I too close? Is it clear? That seed on the path is sprouting out. The third seed, I have no idea. Maybe that one did get eaten. I can only find those 2. So the path, we have one that's missing, one that's still there, and one that's there and is sprouting. What a surprise. All right, you guys, so the next area we came over to these rocks, and I remember when I threw these in there, I couldn't even find them right after I threw them, and I said, I hope they sprout because otherwise I may never find them again. And I've been looking and looking, and I found this one right there, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything, but I can't find any of the others. So we will have to wait a little longer and see if they start to sprout or if they don't, if they're gone. All right, here are the weeds, the ferns that grow up thick in my yard in this little area, and Those seeds are down in there somewhere, and we really won't know unless it starts to grow, which by 4 weeks it should grow. So I didn't expect to see anything this week, but we will check next week and see if those seeds, if we see any sprouts in here that don't look like fern. Okay, you guys, here we are at the good soil, and I don't see any giant plants, do you? No, but it does take a while for green bean plants to grow. What I did see this one right here. It's right there. Do you see that little bit of green? Yeah, there's that seed. It got smushed down there in the dirt a little bit. Let me kind of pull it away. Let me grab a stick. I don't want to kill it, but I would like to see what's happening. Can we pull it out? Gently, gently. Oh, look at all those roots. Oh my goodness, it's still attached. Way down there. Ooh, ooh, it's really holding on. Oh my goodness, look how long the root is. I still haven't got to the bottom of it. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. Let's put it up here where you can see it. Look at that bean seed and that root. Wow. I think by next week, if I can plant it back in there gently, that might pop up and even maybe have a leaf or two. Look how long that root is. It's almost as long as my finger. It is as long as my finger. Wow. So that's a big difference from the one that was growing on the path, isn't it? Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to put this back in the dirt, and then I'll be back for a prayer. Well, that was exciting to see how big that seed has gotten in the good soil. We'll have to just keep checking it every week. We've got 2 more weeks, and hopefully we'll have some plants with hundreds or 60 or 30 seeds. More seeds than what we planted. That would be very cool because I love green beans. All right, so let's have a prayer, and that'll be the end. Let's fold our hands, bow our heads, and talk to God. Dear God, thank you for this lesson today. I know we didn't really dig into the story yet, but it was so good to hear that Jesus' disciples did not always understand him. I mean, they spent all their time with him. They heard everything he said, and they saw everything he did, and even they didn't understand all of it. So that helps us know that it's okay when we don't understand the Bible, because it's pretty hard to understand, especially some parts of it. And we love hearing that Jesus pulled his disciples to him and said, let me explain it to you. Let me tell you what it means, because we're going to need him to do that for us many times in our lives. And we just thank you for Jesus, and we thank you for the Bible, even the parts that are hard to understand. And we thank you for your great love for us. In Jesus' name we all pray. Amen. Okay, I hope it's as beautiful at your house today as it is today while I'm filming this. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and happy Valentine's Day on Sunday. And I will see you next week. I love you all, and I miss you. Have fun learning together. Bye-bye.